Hi and welcome back to Evita, cooking at the rhythm of my heart. Thank you so much for watching. Today's recipe is a request from McCoy in Charleston, South Carolina. So McCoy, thank you so much for your request. I hope you like it. McCoy is married to a Puerto Rican and she wanted to learn how to make mofongo step by step. So McCoy, this is my version of mofongo boricua. Hope you like it. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell on the bottom so that you can be notified when I upload new videos. Like and share my videos so that I can continue making these videos for you. If you have any suggestions, please leave your comments in the box below. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have with regards to this recipe or any future recipes that you would like to see in this channel. Okay, let's make some mofongos. The first step is selecting the plantains, and you want to look for plantains that are nice and green, dark green, and very firm to the touch. Those will make for great mofongos. I'm going to show you very quickly how we peel them. Of course, these can sometimes stain your hands, and if you want to prevent your hands from becoming stained, you can use food prep gloves if you like. I'm not going to be using that today. Plantains don't stain as much as green bananas do, so I can live with that. It's worth the trouble. So what I do is I like to run my knife straight up. Careful not to go through the plantain, like so. And then using my knife, I push on the skin, like so. There's no science of how to peel. I'm sure you've seen this done before. But this is just one of many ways you can do it. Let's see. There we go. You can use your knife if you like. Some people use a spoon to score, and they score the plantain, and then with the spoon they remove the skin. The plantains are fairly easy to peel. They're not so hard. So there we go. And then using my knife, I like to just cut any excess that remained on the plantain. Now, because we're making mofongos, I like to cut my plantains lengthwise first, okay? And we want to be very careful not to cut our hands, so there we go. I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to cut it into quarters. So, cut it in half, like that, then again, and then cut it this way. Now, what you get is pieces like this. I'm going to explain to you in a second why I do that, because obviously there's many ways of doing that, but that's just the way I like to do it. And what happens is we're going to be frying these plantains, and then we're going to mash it. That's what a mofongo is. And what I find is that it's a lot easier to mash them when you cut them into smaller pieces and when they're fried. Okay, so there we go. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now in here I have some water, and I'm going to add about a tablespoon of salt to my water. And we always like to salt our water, and you can leave your plantain soaking for anywhere between half an hour to an hour, even overnight. The longer you leave it, the plantains kind of absorb the salt flavor, and it actually gives it a nice little taste to the mofongo. So I'm going to peel the rest of my plantains. And I wanted to show you very quickly about that stain that I was talking about, and I hope that you can see. This is what happens with our hands after we peel bananas or plantains. If you don't use food prep gloves, typically this is what your hands end up looking like. But what I wanted to tell you is that what I like to use to remove most of that stain from my hands is I take some dish soap, preferably the really good brand of dish soap, and then add some salt to it, and you rub your hands for as long as you can stand it, and then you wash your hands, and you'll find that most of that stain will be removed. So that's a quick tip for you, how to remove the stain from your hands and the plantains. Now I'm gonna let these plantains soak for about 45 minutes to an hour. The basic mofongo recipe calls for garlic, olive oil, adobo, maybe some salt and pepper. It really depends on, you know, who taught you how to make your mofongo. But as you probably know by now, I like to give everything my own Evita kick or Evita twist. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using fresh garlic, and I'm going to infuse olive oil with this garlic. And how we do that is I'm going to place 2/3 of a cup of garlic into a mini processor. I've already peeled and cleaned my garlic, and I'm going to mince it by using the pulse. Usually it takes about 10 to 12 pulse to get it nicely minced. I'm looking for a fine mince at this point. Let me open it very quickly so that I can take a look. It's still not quite there. Maybe a couple more pulses. 2 or 3. Let's see. Let's go a couple more. Okay, at this point, it's almost there, so I'm going to go and let it go run for about 10 seconds. And I believe I have the consistency that I'm looking for my garlic. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can mash it or even puree it. Perhaps you want to use also the garlic paste. I have a recipe and a video on how to make garlic paste. You could do that too. But for this recipe, I want to use fresh garlic. And now I'm going to take my garlic and set it aside. And here I have a pan that I'm going to preheat on high for the moment. After about 30 seconds of preheating it, I'm going to add 2 cups of extra virgin olive oil. You can use any brand you like. I'm going to be using this kind today. I prefer to use extra virgin olive oil. It is healthier. I don't believe that I have any recipes that call for canola oil. I've used vegetable oil, corn oil. But for this recipe, I'm going to be using extra virgin olive oil. You can eyeball it if you like, but I'm going to measure it. And this is going to make quite a bit of infused garlic oil. We may not use the whole thing for the mofongo because it is quite a bit, but I figure if I'm going to make garlic oil, might as well make a nice batch of it. Because you could use it in several different dishes. So I'm going to go ahead and preheat it. Add it to my pan. And I'm going to grab this real quick. Get all that oil in there. Okay. And once I've done that, I'm going to take my garlic and place it with my oil. Once the oil comes to temperature, and it usually takes about 2 minutes to come to temperature. I don't want the oil too hot. I'm not looking to fry the garlic. I'm looking for a slow cooking so that the oil can be infused with the garlic, but without burning the garlic. If you set your heat on too high, what happens is you burn your garlic and you get this bitter flavor that you're not gonna like. So we want to make sure we don't have our heat too high. Right now I have it on high because I want to bring it to temperature, but I am going to lower the temperature to medium, And let's see, let's get all that garlic in there. Okay. Now using a spoon, I'm going to go ahead and stir. Once the oil comes to temperature, like I said, it takes maybe about 2 minutes. It already smells absolutely amazing. Some folks refer to this as a mojito. This, to me, this is a garlic oil, a garlic flavor oil. And we're gonna let this go for about 2 minutes so it can come to temperature. Then I'm gonna lower the heat to medium low. And I'm gonna continue cooking the garlic on low until for about 10 to 15 minutes until the oil has picked up all that great garlic flavor. So let's go ahead and let this go, and when I come back I'm going to show you what it looks like after about 10 minutes of cooking. The garlic's been cooking for about 6 minutes already, and I just wanted to show you halfway through what it looks like. It's not burnt, it's just simply simmering in that olive oil. And that's what you want. You want to keep an eye on it, that your heat is not too high, and keep it from burning, because when garlic burns, it's just very bitter and it's not tasty at all. And for the mofongo, we want the garlic flavor, which is the base of our mofongo. So I'm going to let it go for a few more minutes, and when I come back, we're going to go ahead and set it aside and start making our mofongo. After about 10 to 15 minutes of simmering the garlic and the olive oil, this is what it looks like. So you see all the garlic. It's not brown, it's just, you know, slightly cooked, and the aromas of the olive oil are very intense. So what we did is we infused the garlic flavor into it. Now this is what we're going to be using for our mofongo. But once it cooled, I drained a good portion of the olive oil onto a container. And what I like to do is, once it cools, I put it in the refrigerator and I keep it there. And this is just to prevent the olive oil from becoming rancid. And you can keep this in the refrigerator for about up to a week. In a future video, I'm going to show you how I like to use this olive oil. But for today's mofongo, this is what we're going to be using. So in a minute, I'm going to show you how to get our mofongo on. I'm preheating my deep fryer at 350 degrees, and I have about 1 inch of oil in my fryer. And once it comes to 350 degrees, I'm going to begin frying my plantains. And after cutting them and chopping them and draining them, they look like this. So we want to be careful to add them carefully, because they are wet and it's going to splatter, which is the reason why I like to use the deep fryer. So here we go. I believe the oil is nice and hot. There we go. Hear that sizzle? That's hot oil, and of course making contact with wet plantain. I mean, I could have drained them a little bit better, but it's really not that necessary when you're using a deep fryer. Now we have to fry the plantains for a few minutes. I would say anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes. While I fry, I'm going to prepare another plate with, line it up with some paper towel to drain. After 5 minutes, our plantains are ready, and you want them to look like this. Okay, they're hot, so they're fairly cooked on the outside or in the inside. I'm going to let it go for a few more seconds. We're not trying to brown them, we're just cooking them through. And that's part of the reason why I like to cut my plantains smaller, because this process goes a lot faster. Now, an alternative to frying your plantains will be boiling your plantains. Be the same thing. You peel them just as I showed you. You cut them into rounds. You put them into a little bit of salted water and drain them and mash them. And that's just a healthier alternative to making your plantains, or your mofongos, I should say. Of course, everything fried always tastes better, so it will be a difference in flavor, but you can still get away with making your plantains just as well, or your mofongo just as well. Okay, so I'm going to start removing our plantains from the oil. Drain them as much as I can. Alright. I'm not going to salt them because remember we salted the water and we left them in the salted water for about an hour. So we don't want to add more salt to the plantains. As we're forming the mofongos, we can taste it, and then if it needs any more salt or adobo, we can add it. But for the time being, we're not going to add any salt to our plantains. Okay. And our plantains look like this. Nice and crispy and cooked. And now we're ready to begin our mofongos. Traditional mofongo calls for chicharron or pork rind or fried pork rinds, and they look like this. This is a store-bought kind. This is just a little secret for those of you who don't want to go through the trouble of making your own chicharron. This works just as well. But because I never like to do anything traditional and I like to give everything my own twist, I'm going to be using smoked bacon instead. And I'm going to be using this kind. I buy the kind that comes in a slab, and then I just cut it into chunks like this. So I like to cut my own bacon. That way you can just cut it into whatever size you like. So I'm going to begin by cutting slices. Now, one little secret is that I buy it in slabs, but I freeze it. And then I just cut it, cut the piece that I want, and then just freeze it right back, and you get that way you can get the pork or the bacon to last a little longer. I don't use a lot of bacon in my cooking, so freezing it is a good alternative for me. And since it's frozen, it's a little difficult to cut. So, well, here we go. And after I slice it, I like to just cut it into smaller pieces. Now, you know that when you cook bacon and you render it, what you end up with is this crispy, fat bits. And that's really what we're looking for. This is really just for taste. So I'm going to continue dicing my bacon. And once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and bring it to the stove so we can go ahead and render our bacon. Make it nice and crispy. Over here I have examples of the different chicharrones that you can use for your mofongo. Here I have the traditional pork rind chicharron, and like you can see, it's nice and crispy. This is from a pernil or a pork roast that I made. And of course the bag chicharrones that I showed you previously, and also the crispy bacon that I'm going to be using today. When we make mofongos, we normally use a pilon or a mortar and pestle to mash the plantains and mix it with the rest of the ingredients. And I have here some of my favorite from my own personal collection. Most Puerto Rican households have one or two of these. You can almost guarantee you'll find one of these in our kitchen. So this little guy right here was carved out of a tree that was in one of my properties, and it fell down, and one of the guys that was working or trying to help me clean up the property carved it out and gave it to me as a reminder of the tree, which I thought it was very nice. I also have a steel mortar and pestle. These are very unusual. I believe this was the only time I've ever seen one. I don't know if anybody else that owns it, but this was a gift to me from my mother-in-law, and it holds very special meaning in my heart. This one I normally use to mash garlic. It's very efficient, and of course the cleanup is a lot easier. And this could be used too, and what you're looking for is, you want it to have a wide mouth, really, because what you're going to do is you're going to add all the ingredients and mash it together to form the plantain or the mofongo. I visited Puerto Rico, and during one of my visits, I went to a restaurant where they specialized in mofongos and seafood, and the owner of the restaurant thought it would be a nice keepsake to gift me the pilon that I used to eat in my meal. I thought that was very nice. This one I bought, and this was a purchase that we made during one of those fiestas patronales. I remember back in the day when Haitians will come visit all the towns in Puerto Rico, and they make some of the best quality pilones that I have ever seen. And the fiestas patronales, or patrons feasts, are held usually every year at a different date in every town. Aguada, which is my hometown, I believe, is known for having the longest running fiesta patronales in the island. So that's just a little bit of information for you. This is another example of the fine work of our artesanos in Puerto Rico, and I just wanted to share this with you. I bought this one about 7 years ago, and I thought it was just absolutely amazingly confected. And you know what? We really need to appreciate them a little bit more, and when we visit Puerto Rico, we really should pay these guys a visit. They work very hard to make these. This is the biggest one that I own currently, and it is going to be the one I'm going to be using with making this mofongo that I am preparing for you today. So there you have it. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of my collection of the pilones that I have. And now we're going to get started with this delicious mofongo that I have prepared for you. It's mofongo time, guys. So I have here a large pilon like this. And I'm going to begin by adding some of the garlic oil. And this is all to taste, guys. Now, if you enjoy the flavor of garlic, you put less or more. It really is up to you. It depends on how much garlic flavor you want on your mofongo. But I'm going to start with I'm going to say about a tablespoon of mofongo and oil. And to that, I'm going to add some of the fried plantains. And they're still a little bit hot. And mofongo is preferably, it's easier to make when the plantains are still very hot. So you begin with adding just half of them for now. And you just want to mash them. Okay. And you add it a little bit at a time because you want to be able to mash your plantains well to form the mofongo. Okay, I'm going to add some more. Go. And you're just basically mashing the plantains, really. And of course, you're mixing it with the olive oil. I'm going to be making 2 mofongos today, so for this recipe today, the plantains that I fried it's going to yield me 2 large mofongos. Okay. You can make them as big or as little as you like. At this point, I want to begin by adding a little bit of the adobo. I always use adobo without pepper. That's just a preference of mine. I'm going to begin by adding about a half a teaspoon of adobo, maybe less. Also to taste, depends on how much salt you like on your mofongo. And I'm also going to add a little drizzle of vegetable oil, and this is no sodium vegetable oil. This is store-bought, but I do have a recipe on my channel how to make homemade vegetable stock. You're welcome to take a look at that. Okay, so we add just a little bit to moisten the plantains. And see what happens is, what happens is as you're mashing the plantains, the broth softens the plantains, okay? So we want to mash it well. Continue adding our plantains and mashing. Okay. We keep mashing. It's a great way to relieve some stress. Halfway through the mofongo, I add a little bit more of the garlic. Not too much. Again, this is just to flavor, and some more vegetable oil. And it's just a touch. And now we're gonna add some more plantains to finish our mofongo. Okay. Okay, after I added the plantain, I'm gonna keep mashing and squeezing. Let's see if you can see that there. You squeeze. All right, there we go. Build some muscles, so you're exercising and cooking at the same time. So this is great. Okay. Once the mofongo is nice and mashed, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and taste it to see if I need to adjust the seasoning, the salt, or the or add more olive oil. Okay. So once you're done mashing it, it looks like that. Now I'm going to taste it once more, because at this point I want to add the bacon and also adjust for salt and also for olive oil. I like mine with a lot of garlic, so I'm going to taste it and see if I need to add more. Wow. Okay, I'm going to add another touch of adobo. And like I said, this is all to taste. So I added about a pinch of adobo. And I like mine very garlicky, so I'm going to add some more garlic. Okay, I added about another teaspoon of garlic. I'm also going to add, let's see, there we go, a touch of the vegetable oil. And at this point, we want to add our bacon. Now, I'm using bacon, but the traditional mofongo, like I said earlier, is prepared with pork rind. For tonight's recipe, I'm going to be using bacon. Render the bacon bits, and you can put as much as little as you like. It's up to you. And we go ahead and mash it together to combine. Smells amazing. Now this is one of those recipes that you can adjust to your taste buds. There's many things that you can add to this mofongo. This is just a basic mofongo recipe, but you can go wild with this recipe. There's so many possibilities. Now I use the bigger mortar and pestle because I wanted to give myself enough room to be able to mash it. But I'm going to be serving my mofongo out of a pilon, but it's a very special pilon that I have. So for presentation purposes, I'm going to be using a different pilon. Now, once you're done with it, this is what your mofongo looks like. Now, at this point, if you were going to be making a mofongo relleno, this is how you want it to look. So what you do, if you're going to serve it in your pilon, what you do is you mash it and flatten it to the sides of the pilon like this, and so you can make room for the relleno. Typically in Puerto Rico, they will they stuff it with camarones a la criolla. If they serve it with soup or caldo de cerdo or caldo de res, which is beef broth or chicken broth, normally what they do is they set it on the bottom of the pilon like this, and then they just put the sopa or the caldo inside and then bring it out to you. So there you have it. And now I'm going to show you in just a minute another way, in case you don't have a pilon, that you can mash your plantains. So if you don't have a pilon, one way of making mofongo without a pilon will be using a masher. So I'm going to drop some of the plantains into a bowl. I don't want to put all of them at once. Now to soften them up, I'm going to add a little bit of the vegetable broth and also the garlic oil. Again, this is all to taste. You can add as much or as little as you like. Now, let's see. Our plantains became a little bit colder now, so they're a little bit harder to mash, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. Now, as I said before, you can also make mofongo by just simply boiling the green bananas and mashing them the same way I'm doing it now. Okay, just a little more. It's a little harder to do, but you can still get mofongo out of this. So let's see. Okay, it's a little slow in the beginning, but as you go, you'll see that it softens up. So if you feel like mofongo and you don't have a pilon, never fear. Here's a great way that you can achieve your mofongo. Okay. Go ahead and remove the sides. My masher is not the greatest, but it's also a gift from my mother-in-law. So it's fairly old, very old-fashioned. So I kept it for the great memories. She gave it to me with much love. So I've been using it ever since. I like to keep my stuff for as long as I can. And especially when they have great memories, just like this one does. Now we can add a little bit more vegetable oil to help it. And some more garlic and oil. Okay. And I'm gonna add more of the plantains. And like I said, they're cold already, so they're a little bit harder to mash. So it's gonna take a little longer this way, but that's fine. I'm gonna continue mashing it. And when I come back, I'm gonna show you what this mofongo looks like. Making mofongo requires quite a bit of muscle, but I promise you it's worth it. If you're gonna be using pork rind in your mofongo, don't forget to crumble it when you add it. Just crush it slightly. It'll continue crushing as you mash it, but you know, you want to just give it that initial crush. Of course, if you want, you can use bacon and pork rind. It really is up to you. Nobody's gonna stop you. Like I said, this is a matter of taste. You can add whatever you like. Mofongo is basically plantain and whatever else you want to add to it. So this is done and it's ready. And I want to show you that, you know, I finished it using the masher. You know, just for the benefit of those that don't have a pilon. So you can see that, yes, you can achieve a mofongo by using a masher. Okay, now I'm going to taste it one more time. And it's perfect. I think I'm ready to eat mofongo. So McCoy, there you have it. My version of mofongo de plátano. I hope you try it. Please leave your comments down below. I would love to hear from you. Let me know how yours turns out. Until next time, this is Evita, cooking at the rhythm of my heart. Buen provecho y hasta la próxima.